Amy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Amy, and thanks to the Talkdesk team for having me and having AWS. I look after our language AI services at AWS, and those are things like our transcription, our automated speech recognition, and you might be interested to know that the contact center is our #1 use case across all of the language services for what we do at AWS. So we put the most focus there in terms of feature development, go-to-market, things like this. And the reason is we're very customer obsessed. That's our #1 sort of leadership principle, just like the folks at Talkdesk. And so, yeah, we follow what our customers want to do, and they've voted with their feet and their wallets and investing in AI in the contact center. And I think you heard some great examples with Rod and Ed and the other folks just before this. So we got a lot of good stuff to get through, and so I'm going to jump right in. Right, so let's start with a number. You may have heard from a customer at Talkdesk. I won't identify who, although Paul may do so after this, who saw an average reduction in average call handling time of 24% through automation and AI. And that's a really big swing, I think, in this industry where we think of improvements in the single digits as really moving the needle. 24% is a huge improvement. So that's a meaningful result. I'll give you one other number that's not on the chart, and that's 52%. So we know that 52% of all companies have said that they're investing more into automation and AI since the onset of the pandemic. And again, because of results like this and the ones that you've heard about today. So again, customers are voting with their feet and identifying the real gains in customer experience and differentiation in their products that they can bring through deploying these technologies. So stepping back, by way of quick agenda, I'm just going to talk to you very briefly about what is AWS doing here? How do we go to market? How do we partner with Talkdesk? Give you a little bit of color around that. Paul's going to talk to you about jobs to be done with Talkdesk AI, and then we're going to look at some additional customer references to wrap it up.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So from an AWS perspective, we have a very broad and deep set of artificial intelligence services. In our case, in the natural language area. So these power things like agent assistance, call analytics, also self-service technologies, including in the contact center. And we've invested very heavily in those things over the past decade plus. So that's building models, optimizing and training those models, deploying and then extending them across different language supports, new feature capabilities. And we offer these things through APIs to all kinds of developers and customers, which is fine. The good news for you as a Talkdesk customer is you don't really have to worry about that. Through the single pane of glass and the unified experience that I think you're using or you're seeing here, you can just consume and sort of get the benefit of all that investment, all that training, all that accuracy, if we're talking about transcription, things like that, through your Talkdesk deployment. So yeah, if you want to come play with our APIs and get in the console and get your hands dirty, that's great too. But otherwise, you can leverage these technologies for agent assistance and self-care, self-service. Is that a Freudian slip? Maybe you can use them for self-care, I don't know.
Yeah.
Self-service and call analytics. So moving on. So a simple but powerful metaphor just to set up the jobs to be done that Paul's going to take you through is that, so Theodore Levitt is a professor at Harvard, and he had this quote that people don't want a quarter-inch drill, what they want is a quarter-inch hole. Which I think you get the point. It's about the outcome and sort of working back from that. They care, people care a lot less about the tools that are needed along the way. And so we're just outcome-based as well. That's another thing that we share with Talkdesk. We always work backwards from the customer. And so, yeah, in order to tell you a little bit more about that and how Talkdesk will help you with that, I'm going to give it to Paul.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brett. I want to learn more about that self-care stuff later on, if that's okay.
It's a new feature. I'll tell you all about it in the
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks, Brett. Thank you for that. I like this quote from Theodore here because he's talking about the problem that you're trying to solve. We all have a common problem in our customer center here, as we like to call it. I was recently hanging a very large clock in my living room. It's like a 2-foot diameter clock, and it's going into over the fireplace, and it was all little red bricks. So I was very nervous as a very not a great DIY man. I was planning on drilling a hole in the brick, very worried about destroying it, ruining the centerpiece of my living room. So I actually found a little brick clip online. You can actually push a little brass clip into the mortar joints on those little bricks, and you can hang your clock. So I never had to drill anything. So it was a nice, innovative way, I would say, of solving my problem of hanging this clock. So there's multiple ways, and I didn't have to worry about breaking that brick. So let's look at some of the jobs to be done that Talkdesk helps you solve. All these 3 jobs to be done here are nothing new. They're things that we've been all in this room, in this industry, have been trying to solve for a while. Self-service, identifying causes, and help agents resolve issues quickly. These are all themes that we've been talking about all day. We just had a great customer session where we heard Ed and Rod talk about those. Let's take a look at how Talkdesk helps solve some of this. Now, when you looked at these 3 things, a few things probably sprang to your mind about how you go about solving these metrics. What are the processes that you have in place today to solve this? What technology is there? So let's take a look a little bit at how Talkdesk AI helps to solve this, Talkdesk and AWS. So what you're seeing across the top of the slide here is those 3 jobs to be done. And underneath it, you see a nice clean graph. That graph, in an ideal world, is the role automation plays in your customer center. The agent is on the left-hand side, or sorry, the customer is on the left-hand side, your end user, all the way into the agent on the right. The further that interaction goes into your agent, obviously the more costly the interaction. And once you get to the agent, you want to support the agent as best you can. It's AI augmenting that experience for the agent, so bringing up some of the relevant articles, procedures. You saw a great demo in the beginning today where we saw Agent Assist in action. And let's take a little bit of a look in depth at this. So let's introduce some of the products now. Let's introduce some of the areas where we can that you can actually use today. Now, whether this is a huge digital transformation project or whether it's a small picking off a piece that you want to solve, Ed, I'm not sure where Ed is sitting, but I'm going to borrow a great saying he said a few minutes ago. He said, dream big, but start small. And that's something that you can do with the microservices architecture that we're looking at here. So I had self-service on the last slide, a job to be done. And a lot of people probably thought self-serve IVR, DTMF, maybe some of you thought natural language, virtual agent. There's a product under there, or a tile on the left-hand side called identity, and that's actually doing voice biometrics. Think about the amount of time it takes your agent to identify someone. When someone calls, they say, hey, what's your member ID? What's the first line of your address? This knowledge-based stuff that's easy to spoof. In some cases, some customers have issues with that. A voice biometric is an AI model looking at your voice print. You call up, and I hate the term my password is my voice because it's such a boring password to say, my password is my voice. This could be your company slogan. This could be anything. It could be your date of birth if you're a healthcare environment. So, hi, I'm Paul. My date of birth is, whatever my date of birth is. We don't need to get into that. So that automatically is automating some of the experience. It's helping the agent out. It's taking some of the repetitiveness out of their job. And to borrow something Rod said earlier was, enriching the agent's job, making their job more meaningful, getting to the meatier tasks that they can solve. And I'll talk again a little bit about that as I get further into the AI here. But that's something to consider with authentication and identity. Self-serve and virtual agent. Talkdesk, as you know, is a CCaaS platform, which means there's multiple channels. Channel is voice, it's web chat, it's the virtual agent themselves. We can design a virtual agent once. And that's a big statement, because once you design it and you train it, which is a big deal, you can access it from multiple channels. And that's what we're talking about here with virtual agent and our self-serve portal. We can do things like FAQs. You can also implement more interactive things like rescheduling appointments. It depends how big you want to go and where you want to start with your AI experience. You'll see a bar underneath called knowledge management. Most customers will already have something hosted here. They'll have like a Zendesk knowledge management. They might have it hosted on Salesforce. We have connectors that will point to these systems and bring that back into our system. Why that's important is because our AI models can then access that data. Agent Assist, as we'll see, will do it. Virtual Agent will do it. So there's very powerful stuff you can have with knowledge. And on the bottom line here, I'd like to draw your attention. I'm not sure if it's difficult to see from where you're sitting, but it says AI trainer, human in the loop. Now, a lot of the challenges, I would say one of the hidden challenges with AI is how does the ongoing ownership of AI work? How do you tailor AI specific for your customers? That could be regional dialect, for example. So if you think of a virtual agent trained here in New York, it's got all the local colloquialisms, and then I ring up with my Irish accent and I say, the product you just sent me is banjaxed. How is the VA going to know what that means? What happens is when an utterance gets missed, when the virtual agent doesn't understand something, which will happen, it's just natural, humans speak in a lot of different ways, it goes into an inbox called AI Trainer. And you saw it quickly during our demo today. An agent, going back to the job enrichment that Rod touched on in the last session, an agent or a supervisor can go in there and take a look at this inbox for a few minutes a week. And they're the ones that know what those utterances mean or what somebody is trying to say, because they're on the phone every day and they're hearing it. So all you do is attach it to an intent. It's a very simple process, and it's actually a system of agreement, because bias was also mentioned. One person's interpretation can be not wrong, but it can just be you can be putting one thing in a bucket when it may not be the case. So it's actually a system of agreement. Multiple people can have access to this, and a supervisor actually signs off on it, and they say, oh yes, I agree with that. I think all those utterances are in that intent. As soon as that supervisor gives the thumbs up, gives the okay, that model is immediately trained. So from now on, anytime someone calls in and starts talking in semi-English or in riddles like the Irish do and says things like that, they will understand that word banjaxed. It means broken, by the way. Over time, you're building a very robust vocabulary. You're feeding that model. And actually, Brett, we're going to talk a little bit about AWS in a moment, but we're actually going to be supporting Lex on this in a few months as well. So this is something that's going to be a trained model that we have a lot of customers looking at today. So interaction analytics, where are the causes? Where are the problems happening in your contact center? What is the sentiment analysis going on? Are they angry? How do you fix the problems? Again, we saw this in the demo today. You can see recordings, you can take notes, you can do a lot of dynamic searching with your transcripts. And all those transcripts, in this particular case, you see an AWS tag on the right-hand side. There's a very high degree of accuracy here in our language. As I'm talking, it's doing a great job of transcribing what I'm saying, and all that is getting pushed through an AI model. So as Brett mentioned a while ago, all this training has gone into this model behind the scenes. I'm not doing it justice with that explanation. And you as a Talkdesk customer are turning this feature on, and it's working as the agent is talking, as the customer is talking. It's transcribing that in real time. The last job to be done that I'm going to talk about here is help agents resolve issues. So the job of the agent is very, very, it's all happening in real time. So everything's happening very quickly. That transcription, that great feedback that we heard a little while ago, it's happening in real time. As you're talking, the agent is seeing that getting populated. But more important, the agent doesn't have to be reading that all the time. They can certainly reference it back if they need to. We're picking out key intents and entities as that transcript is happening. In other words, if somebody calls up and if it's a new agent and they say, oh, I'm locked out, I can't reset, I need to reset my password, the agent can immediately see a very simple procedure for a reset password. And then it can get into more complex things. Any use case, think of a use case, you have a procedure that your agent typically has to do that they might have to search in 5 different places for it. This is bringing that knowledge, that procedure right into that workspace, and it's in that panel that you saw again in the demo during Kathy's session earlier today. And with AWS, there's a lot of language support. There's a lot of, and a high degree of accuracy, as I mentioned that a while ago. And I believe there's some vertical specific lexicons that are developed as well that are available inside of AWS. So, and quality management, of course, going back and looking and doing some dynamic searching and scoring on those, on the agents. So as you look at this is kind of the full spectrum of Talkdesk AI. Of course, there's some fantastic App Connect partners out there that we work with that you've met out in the lobby. But think about your day-to-day in the contact center and think about those jobs to be done. There's some very kind of simple steps that you can take, practical steps that you can take to help you achieve that. A common one we're seeing, for example, is an AI switchboard virtual agent. Instead of having multiple layers of an IVR where someone has to dial a DTMF button again and again to get to the right menu, they're simply asking upfront, hey, how can I help you today? And I'll just say, I need to reschedule my appointment. The virtual agent can just direct me to the right ring group to do that. Or if you want to get more complex, you can go and build that for full containment and do that appointment inside of your virtual agent. So it doesn't have to be a boil the ocean kind of a thing. There are lots of practical steps you can take to get on the AI ladder. Okay, so we're going to take a quick look at artificial intelligence in action. My first slide is going to be a little bit redundant because we've just heard Ed talk a little bit about Cisco. You articulated in a fantastic way, really, the value of AI and sort of augmenting the experience, taking the repetitive, taking the difficult stuff off of the agent's desktop and just putting it in the virtual agent. And I must admit, when I'm talking to customers, I actually tell them of the Cisco use case because I love the simplicity of how it started. Where's my truck? You're looking in the virtual agent, you're checking a system in the back end. If you're not in the logistics industry, if you're in financial sector, if you're in healthcare, just think about that. What's in my checking account? When's my appointment? These are questions that are repetitive, they're small, there's not a huge amount of complexity within those questions. And that was a fantastic place to start. I'm delighted to see you're getting some great traction with that one. There's a big amber logo here, 24% decrease in average handle time. That's pretty significant. If you think about the industry average of a call for an agent is what, 30 cents a minute or something like that? This equates to roughly 90 seconds of savings. Now that's moving an authentication and a where's my truck piece into the automation stack. You keep moving into the automation stack as well, but that was a fantastic starting point and really great statistic here and news from the Cisco Foods industry, company, I should say. The next one is Carbon Health. Now, Carbon Health are starting to roll out our CX Cloud, which is our CCaaS platform at the moment. And there is a big focus on AI that they're working on today. That 20% is an average, it's an average increase in answer rate. Let me get that correct. It's a 20% increase in answer rate. That was from understanding what the call's about and putting it in the right queue. There was a lot of wastage going on because of people just going into generic ring groups and it not being an intelligent enough routing system. There's AI being built into this to personalize the experience as well. So not just figuring out what they want, but also moving some of the workload potentially into the virtual agent as well. And most of these use cases, I should mention, are voice, but like I said, we're also implementing digital, as I believe in the plan is with Carbon Health in this case. So, as you're looking at this, it was a very quick session, so thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you, and thank you very much, Brett, for joining us here today. bringing AWS is really the best in class, APIs that we can get our hands on. And AWS is really at the forefront of that service. Have a think about what jobs can be done within your customer center. Think about kind of the breadth that you heard about today. And I'm going to be getting self-care tips from Brett later on at the reception. So if you'd like to join us and join in, feel free. So if you'd be open to that, Brett, that'd be great.
I would, and I would also just say, like the innovation that Talkdesk continues to bring is really impressive. Like we think about transcription, and we have a maniacal focus on accuracy and improving word error rates. And so we offer things like custom vocabularies and custom library models. So customers can tinker around with this, but that still takes a lot of work. The human in the loop feature is like just adds a whole nother level of simplicity and ability to just add that little piece into your workflow to improve the experience for the agent and then the customer as well. So that's just super cool differentiation. And
I appreciate that. And it really is a challenge to take AI from the IT department or the data scientists, which of course, if you have that, that's fantastic.
Right,
You're
we
a step
like
ahead.
those too.
But if you don't, it has to be accessible for the business user, and it's a good observation. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brett.
Yeah, so thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Back to Amy.